Hi everyone. So this is an introduction to zoology course, and I would like you to welcome to the world of zoology. So this is a pre-recorded lecture, and I hope that you'll enjoy what will be the discussions around in this presentation. So this is a generations of luau fishermen in Lake Victoria, in Africa, which they caught this cichlid fish, including tilapia, as a mainstream source of their economy. So this recent introduction of an invasive species, by the way, an invasive species is an organism that is being introduced to the lake. And this Nile perch, Lates niloticus, has changed the entirety of Lake Victoria's ecosystem and the fishing economy of the lake. So we will be studying the evolutionary perspective and the ecological perspective of zoology. So zoology is coming from the word zoon and logos, which is a study of animals. So one of the broadest fields in all of the sciences because of the immense variety of animals and their complexity of the processes happening within animals. For example, we have 28,000 described species of birds and fishes, and we have 400,000 described and many of the undescribed insects like beetles. It is no wonder that zoologists, have more than one subdisciplines. In the Philippines, we have also we're proud that we are catering and homing the entirety or the majority of the fauna and flora in the world. So we are called a biodiversity hotspot. So in relation with the subdisciplines in zoology, we need to know that there are a particular or functional, structural, or ecological aspects of one or more animal groups. So we have the subdisciplines, and a zoologist may choose to specialize in a particular group of animals, and it will be shown in a table 1.2. So we have examples of a specializations in zoology. We have from anatomy, cytology, comparative genomics, and bioinformatics. Ecology, study of the interaction. Embryology, we have the study of the development of an animal from the fertilized egg to birth or hatching. We have genetics, the study of mechanisms of transmission of your traits, coming from your parents, your maternal and paternal side. Also, histology, the study of tissues. We have molecular biology, the subcellular details of a part of the cell. We have parasitology, physiology, or the functions of organisms and their parts. And we have systematics, or the study of the classification or the evolutionary relationships among animal groups. So here we have subdisciplines. We have study of insects or entomology. We have study of amphibians and reptiles, or we call that herpetology. Study of fishes is ichthyology. Mammalogy is a study of mammals, and we belong to the class Mammalia. That's why if you want to specify on based on taxonomic categories, we have mammalogy for studying all groups of mammals. Study of birds, ornithology, and protozoans, we call that protozoology. So this is a fish, a cichlid fish coming from the Lake Victoria in Africa, and it contains 2,000 to 3,000 species. So the members of this family are including with the familiar tilapia species. So it resembles like a tilapia if you have been being served or your mom has cooked at home the tilapia species. And the host fish that hobbyists maintain in a freshwater aquaria. So all of these cichlid species may range up to 2.5 centimeter to 1 meter and have an enormous variety of color patterns, habitats, and different body forms. So the figure 1.1 will show you the cichlids of Africa, which exist in amazing variety of color. So we have this cichlid on the upper part and cichlid on the lower part. They have these stripes, the black and white stripes. Okay, the first one is a dog tooth cichlid, which is found in Lake Malawi in Africa. Okay, the female of this species broods. They're developing eggs on her mouth to protect them from predators. And the second one is a Fantasa, which is native to Lake Tanganyika in Africa. So many cichlids mouth brood their young. So mouth breeding, we call that one, where the female takes eggs into her mouth, and after the eggs are spawned, okay, she then inhales the sperm released by the male, and fertilization and development will take place within the female's mouth. So that's pretty amazing. It's kind of weird in the cichlid species that they do mouth breeding. Okay, even after the eggs hatch, youngs are taken back to the mouth of the female if the danger is coming. But we have this scale-eating cichlid. Okay, the scale-eating cichlid, or the scale eaters, or attacking from behind of the scales of prey fish. So we have these two body forms, okay, of this scale eating cichlid. The two body forms are being maintained in this population. The other one attacks on the left side of the fish, of the prey fish. The other one is attacking from the right side. So they develop this right and left jawed forms, okay, and this was being maintained in your population. This was being maintained in the population of cichlid. Okay, we call population as a group of interbreeding organisms. Okay, so these right and left jawed forms were maintained in your population, and the prey isn't aware of what's happening, that he or she might be attacked by this scale-eating cichlid. Okay, so we have this example, Perisodus microlepsis, an endemic. Okay, we call endemic because it's only found in a certain place. Okay, this Perisodus microlepsis is found only in Lake Tanganyika, and the male with its brood of young is shown here in the picture. So what are the zoological perspective of the evolutionary perspective of how did they emerge? How did animals emerge? Okay, so we have to know the evolutionary perspective of your animals because they share a common ancestry, and we will know the evolutionary past of these organisms. Okay, evolution's process has very remarkable for their relative simplicity. So that's very simple but yet complex matter that we need to deal on. Okay, we have 4 to 10 million species of animals living in the world today, and more of that are undiscovered. Okay, we need more people to discover these things. Many more, about 90%, have existed in the past and became extinct. So we don't have any records of these animals, but as long as the fossils could identify all of these extinct animals, then that's a pretty good way to start. We have zoologists must understand these evolutionary processes if they are to understand what an animal is and how it started or originated. So they have to trace back all of these stuff. So we have this term we call this organic evolution. Okay, organic evolution refers to the change of your organisms. Okay, change of the population of your organism. What is the change? The change in genetic makeup. Okay, the genetic makeup will contribute more on the diversity of your animals, or animal diversity, and it explains family relationships. And the first person to note that was Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin is a naturalist, the father of evolution, and published variety of references in relation with the natural selection that he was studying in. And evolution, in the evidence of evolution in 1859, Charles Darwin proposed a mechanism that explains evolutionary change. And Organic evolution is um, the Latin word of that is evolutus, which means to unroll. So it's unrolling as the time passes by. So since that time, biologists have become more convinced that evolution did happen, and it doesn't evolution doesn't always explain how they appear, how they show off their colors, how cool their breeding patterns were, or how big and small they are. But also it explains what are their relationships between the animal kingdom. And animal kingdom is a very complex clan, and as long as we have learned to understand the very simple and the very basic connections between these animals, we could target evolutionary relationships among thousands and millions of animals around the world. So, for example, we have 2,000 to 3,000 cichlid species, and we need to study about their genetic past, okay, via studying their DNA, okay, or the genetic material within individuals in other groups. So, yeah, that's a lot of work to do in classification, and as long as you were able to know the origin of that animal, the parental origin, okay, where did it come from, your blueprint, or we call that DNA in your cell, okay, determines most of your physical features. We call that phenotype, okay. Physical or physiological features, okay, you resemble more that you resemble both of your parents. It's a mixture, and the traits were being passed on from your mother and your father. So we have this what we call as genetics, okay, to study more of the inheritance and patterns of transmission of traits between the parents and the offspring. And we study genetics to suggest that old populations of these cichlids are found in the lakes Tanganyika and Kivu. And from this, the fish invaded African rivers and Lake Malawi, Victoria, and other smaller lakes. So they've traced, okay, from the origin of these cichlid species, where did they come from, okay. They suggest that, okay, we found some very old record of these fishes in Africa, okay. It traveled from the lakes Kivu, okay, lakes Tanganyika, and Lake Malawi. So these are the the places or the bodies of water where the cichlid populations have been traced, and it was approximately 200,000 years old. So how do we know about genetic relationships among animals? So how do we understand the relationships of this population of animals to other populations of animals? So how do we link them together or unbreak the chains that bind them? We need to use the allozymes and the DNA structure. So it is beyond morphological characteristics. It's beyond more on the physical features. It's beyond on the resemblance of their feathers, resemblance of their scales, resemblance of their body patterns, resemblance of their size, because we could attribute that one at the surface level. So if we need to take a look into more of the details of these animals, we need to analyze their DNA structure and the enzymes we call allozymes, okay. So these are a series of enzymes, we call it allozymes, and then the DNA structure by using different genetic studies and machineries that are capable of doing such. So how about their evolutionary relationships? And these people from the past have been tracing the origin of these animals. So how are we able to name all of this stuff? Okay, a person we call him the father of taxonomy is Carl von Linné. Okay, he was remembered for his task in collecting and classifying plants. Okay, and his system was being called as binomial nomenclature. This was being adopted for animals too. So we have two names being identified for an organism. We call that the first part is the genus name, and the second part is specific epithet name, or we call that species epithet. So we have this cichlid scale eater, we call Perisodus microlepsis. So it should be italicized, okay? And if you are using your hand or handwriting, we will underline both of the names. We underline the genus name and underline the species epithet. Okay. Again, the genus name should start in a capital letter, and the species part will not start with the capital letter. It's a lowercase word. So this is a written reference to a species where it'll be identified. Okay, so this, let's say for example, the Philippine tamaraw, we call that Bubalus mindorensis because it's a water buffalo, and it's found in Mindoro. So we call that one the genus and the specific epithet name. Then we call that the scientific name, or the binomial nomenclature that follows. So above the genus level, organisms are being grouped into families, orders, classes, phyla, kingdoms, and domains. So this is the hierarchy of relatedness. So we call that one, starting from the biggest, the domain. We have eukarya for the eukaryotics, and the prokarya for the prokaryotic organisms. Okay, and we also have kingdom, animalia. So we focus more on the animal kingdom. Arthropoda, okay, an invertebrate, chordata or the chordates, and take a look at the class Hexapoda, which means they are insects. Diptera, they have under the Musidae and the Tabanidae. The Musca, which is the domestic fly, our house fly, okay. Tabanus opacus, which is a horse fly. Perisodus microlepsis is a cichlid fish, and mammals, the Homo sapiens, are being described in this figure. So what is the ecological perspective of zoology? So it's really important for zoologists to study the links of these animals to their ecology. So the ecology is a study of the interactions between animals and their non-living environment, and also humans are also in a bigger ecosystem. So ecology is being studied throughout the history. Humans have depended on animals, and that dependence has led to over exploitation. We could attribute that one to the recent controversies facing the Manila Bay. So they tried to rehabilitate the bay because of the over exploitation of the pipelines and along with the water sewages across Metro Manila, and the bay is suffering the most. All of the aquatic animals and the fauna and flora there was suffering because of the negligence of humans. So going back to your cichlid species, in 1950s, the giant Nile perch, Laetes niloticus, was introduced into Lake Victoria in order to attempt to increase the lake's fishery. So the economy is also has a big role on the disturbance of your ecosystem. The disturbance has affected many different realms. Okay, in this example, the Nile perch was introduced, so we call them an invasive or an introduced species. Okay, anything that is not really coming from that place is we call them alien species. So we have Laetes niloticus as an example in Lake Victoria and Lake Malawi. Yeah. In the Philippines, we have a lot of invasive species, and that's are really critical and detrimental to our ecosystem. Mahogany trees are also an introduced species. We have genitor fish, some of the aquatic fishes in our big lakes in the Philippines. We have in in Laguna de Bay, janitor fish, also in Pasig River, and many more. So this Nile perch is a big fish. Okay, um, to look at the person that's have carrying the fish. Okay, it's really big, and it it feed on smaller fishes. Okay, it has a propelled vacuum like mouth that you know sucks all the water, and then it filters the food that that's coming from the water source into its diet. So this has changed the ecosystem of Lake Victoria. So what about world resources and endangered animals? So this is not all about Africa, okay? This is not all about the lakes in Africa, but it's overwhelming around the world. So this change in the introduction of invasive species has led to problems, okay? And this is acute for developing countries, okay? Um, we are striving to attain the same wealth as industrialized nations. We have two problems that we're facing. We have global overpopulation and the exploitation of world resources. Okay, so let's start with the population. Okay, the root of all other environmental problems is global overpopulation, and the human population growth has exponentially um, growing, and it's expected to continue in the 21st century. So virtually all of this growth is portrayed in your less developed countries, and that includes the Philippines. You'll see a scenario in the picture. It's found in Tondo, Manila. So we have a lot of impoverished areas there. So these people are the age bracket of these people are childbearing population. Okay, so since we have a high proportion of the childbearing age, the growth rate of population will increase. By the year 2050, the population of India, okay, will be up to 1.6 to 5 billion, and it's expected to surpass that of China, which is 1.31 billion. Imagine the land area of China compared to India is really far from behind. So we have a total population of a 9.6 billion uh, as we reach 2050, and that's a lot of people. Okay, in 2010 the US population was 160 million. We're experiencing pandemic. Okay, and it's like nature's way of depleting some of the age bracket here on Earth. So we need to understand that overpopulation has a lot of consequences that will be uh, faced by each of the people across the globe. So 2050 is the we project to increase the population to 401 million. Even though Africa has not have the highest human population, its population is increasing rapidly than other regions in the world. It's because of people from Africa doesn't receive too much of education, doesn't receive too much of quality health care. It's the connection between human population growth and basic needs is a must for people like in equatorial Africa, because these people are suffering from famine, drought, diseases, and there is something that we could do to alleviate their suffering by helping various organizations, okay, to educate these people that family planning is a need. Okay, we need to reduce our population in order for us to to be getting the equal resources that we need. Okay, so the poorest nation will increase their populations as long as the same with the Philippines, which is facing huge problems economically right now. So this is a world population projections for major world regions for 2010 and 2050. The projected one is for Asia, we increased like 1 billion. But take a look at Africa. It doubled its, it doubled its population from 2012 to 2050. Okay, take a look at Europe. It reduced the number because they have policies on their nation to reduce the number of individuals that is being carried or nourished by each family. Also with Latin America and for North America, it slightly increased a little. So the world resources is limited. Okay, we have new technologies that will suffer. To increase food production, we need to create more of the agricultural sectors. We need to increase more of our consumption of meat, which is a great contributor of climate change. Um, we have a high increase of per capita food consumption in the Philippines alone. How about in the developed and developing countries? Okay. Also with maximum oil production, which is expected to increase this millennium, and the continued use of fossil fuels, which added carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It's a serious stuff over here. Um, it contributes more to the uh, global warming and also the greenhouse effect. So these world resources are abundant, but if we took a little negligence on our part, it makes the world suffer. So how about deforestation? Okay, it also changes the ecosystem. Okay, plants, animals, and other variety of organisms depend on trees. Okay, whether that is a big or a small tree, it will be a home for birds. Okay, detritus are being settled at the bottom where the fungi is also needing it. So plant and animal species became extinct, most especially in tropical regions. It's because deforestation is happening because the illegal logs are being used for furniture, for recreational use of humans. Okay, you need to take a look at the forest preservation. Okay, to identify new species of plants and animals that could contribute to human resources. Okay, we have new foods, drugs, buildings, and predator of pests that will be evolving if we don't take a look at the importance of forests. So this example is coming from a Brazilian tropical rainforest on your left, and on your right is a bulldozer clear cutting a rainforest in Solomon Islands. Okay, so take a look at the importance of safeguarding the natural habitats of these animals, as it was happened in China, where the pangolins and the fruit and insect bats were left with no homes because of deforestation, and the people from these areas are consuming this wildlife. So what are your solutions? Okay, let me think in the comment section below. What are your solutions? Well, basically, ecological principles can help prevent ecological disasters. Okay, so understanding how matter is being working at the same time, how carbon dioxide, how oxygen is being transferred from plants to animals and vice versa, how the populations grow, how they are interconnected, how organisms are transferring from one place to the other, how are we helping to contribute on the effects, okay, of population to the ecology and the welfare of these animals. We need to take actions on this. Okay, we need to be responsible for what we are doing, because we are experiencing this pandemic for almost months. It's really depressing to know that it's humans that made this outbreak diseases to spread all across the globe unless we deal with a better interventions. Okay, we could solve this solution. So I have presented here a multifaceted conservation plan where a global system of national parks are used to protect large tracts of land and wildlife corridors that allow movement between natural areas. In the Philippines, we have the key biodiversity areas, which was being set by the Department of Natural Resources and some foreign groups like the BirdLife International and Haribon Foundation to safeguard the welfare of these animals by creating a safe house for them, a safe habitat where they could thrive, reproduce, and basically um, provide the needs of the ecosystem. Also, we protect landscapes and multiple use areas that allow controlled private activity and also to retain the value as a wildlife habitat. Zoos and botanical gardens to save species whose extinction is imminent, or for animals and plants that um, are endangered, okay, are vulnerable for extinction. Okay, so we have a lot of things to do more on studying zoology, and I think that you need to read in advance because zoology is quite a complex subject. This is just the beginning, and I hope that you will be responsible enough to take a look at the perspective of zoology and its connections with other branches of science, how it developed the study of evolution, genetics, comparative anatomy, and many more. So thank you so much for listening our first pre-recorded lecture, and stay safe. Thank you.